I am not a financial advisor. I am a financial educator. I teach people things based on my experience and the work that I do with experts in the field. And today, we just having a quick lunchtime conversation talking about money, and more specific to talking about money, we're going to talk about real results that people are getting based on understanding things first, and second, based on putting the things that they understand in motion. Because education is one thing. We can teach you something all day. But if we put you in a place where you're able to do something and do it with the confidence that you got experts having your back, we get results faster. Does that make sense? Now, I'm joined by one of my favorite partners out of South Florida, is Executive Director Javon Rowland. Now, matter of fact, let me tell you some of Javon's business, and we'll save some of the best parts for later. But the good thing about Javon is at this point, he's building a financial education team around the country where he's taking the things that he learned on a part-time basis and helping people start their own businesses, and then continuing to use the process to use his financial results. Now, Javon, before we get into what we're doing today, tell them about what you normally do during your day. Tell them about your job, your work, how you found me.
Hey, what's going on, Richard Hardon? Thanks for having me. And for those of you who do not know me, my name is Javon Rowland, calling out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And what I do for a living, I distribute medicine to hospitals. So at a moment in time like this, I am well needed, especially with COVID going around and things like that. The patients need me, so I deliver medicine to hospitals for the patients.
Okay. And I want to thank everybody for your essential service. And as we jump in, I'm going to jump in because here's my goal. I want to be in and out of this conversation within 30 minutes because we're only going to talk about one part of a comprehensive financial offering. Because if you think about our financial fitness strategy, the things that we talk about in terms of helping people get things on course in their money, it's important that you know who you're talking to. I see Dr. Sean Hill is over here in the Zoom room with us as well. Welcome, Dr. Hill. As we go through this process, I want you to understand that there are 4 challenges that everybody faces in America. There's their taxes, inflation, debt, and big business. All of them are attacking them simultaneously at once and from different angles. And as we build a strategy to help people overcome those challenges, we got to understand the nature of each of those attacks so that we can counter it effectively, right? The same approach doesn't work for each one of them, but if we get comprehensive in understanding what we face, we can move forward. Now, last week we talked about interest, the 8th wonder of the world. He said that those that understand it get paid by it, and those that don't understand it pay it. But in our approach, in the curriculum, if you will, they talk about that overall process of income shifting. If you're taking notes, jot that down. If you are not taking notes, start taking notes so that you can jot that down. But income shifting is a process of putting your money back in your pocket. And specifically, one of the areas that affects people the most is credit. Credit. And, we'll talk about where credit is, how it fits in scores, but let's talk first about income shifting, the 3 strategies and where we're laser focused today. Because our 3 strategies in income shifting is number 1, to increase your cash flow. Number 2, to build a business income. And number 3, to take the increased cash flow and business income and build investment income. Now, as we dig in, we're just going to focus today in all of the increasing cash flow strategies. We want to minimize taxes, minimize expenses, minimize debt, and increase the credit score. All of those things we provide services to help people with. Today, we're just going to talk about one. We're going to talk about increased credit score. Because, Javon, you know what I've been noticing?
What's that, Rich?
Like all week, I've been running into people that are trying to get things done and their credit is in their way, meaning their credit score isn't high enough. They want to buy a house, but their credit isn't high enough. Or they want to buy a house, or their credit score is right on the border, but their debt to income ratio is too high. Or they want to buy a car, and there's people telling them they can buy a car, but they're not sure how much they should pay. And one of the things that I wanted to do today was first just to demystify credit. Just want to get out there what it is with transparency of knowing that I didn't always know what my credit was or have a good credit score. Meaning I'm probably pretty much like most of you, meaning I went to school and they taught me engineering. And it's funny, Javon. I remember my first credit card, Discover had a little booth set up right on the walkway at Duke University between where I went to lunch and where we hung out. And I sat at the table and filled out the application and got my first credit card. I had a Discover card with a $1,000 balance.
You ran it up, huh?
You know what Discover realized?
What's that?
That I ain't have a job. So I found myself very quickly getting to that limit, paying it off, getting to that limit, paying it off. And, you know, just in that bouncing back and forth of trying to understand what mattered as I went forward in life. Because again, no formal, I mean, I was in the middle of a formal education. I was finishing a college degree, but nobody taught Credit 101, not at my high school, not at Duke University. Did they teach it at your school?
Not at all.
So most of the lessons that I learned about credit, I learned by mistake. And over the last year, some phenomenal things have happened as I first got education, but second, got some experts to help me execute on the process. Making sense so far? So jumping in, let's talk about credit. Now, first thing is just understanding that bad credit is expensive. And there's two categories where I want to focus in. There's $30,000 car. Let's say you wanted to buy a car. Car's $30,000. Turns out there's a lot of places that'll finance just about anyone. But if you had a high credit score, paying 3% interest, well, bad credit isn't costing you anything. Sure. If your credit has some dents and dings, say it's 8%, well, now your payment is $600, almost $100 higher, and you pay $4,100 more for the same car. And then if your credit is damaged, 15% interest, at $713, paying $10,500 more for the same car. Now, I have a vested interest in this particular scenario because I have children. Javon, do you have kids yet?
None.
Well, it was one of those things. My son was actually deciding that he wanted to get a car, right? Oh, I was sharing my screen with you just now. I'll show you the example in a second. And at the time, he didn't have a job. But there was a lot that was willing to finance a car for him at 23%. He's going to buy a $3,000 car for 2.5 times the cost of the car. Now, fortunately, I was along for the ride and not willing to let him do that. But how many of us know some people that just got in trouble? Somebody said, well, we'll finance anyone. Well, there's a cost to that, and it can be tremendous. And the main thing we got to do is understand what we can do. So when I share my screen this time, let me know that it comes through on your end, right?
Gotcha.
That it could be hundreds or thousands of dollars more that we pay for the same thing. And the penalty, they say interest is the price you pay for the right to own something before you can afford it. So in this case, high credit score, $30,000 car, 15% interest would cost $10,500 extra. That's paying $40,000 for something that costs $30,000. And it gets even worse with the house. If you buy a $250,000 home, good score, you pay the lease for the money. Slightly damaged, you pay $142,000 more, cost and a half. And if you got damaged credit, you might find financing, but pay more than the house is worth in interest. You hear me? So here's what we do. And it's not just that. So people that say, well, I'm not going to buy a car or don't want to buy a house, but did you know that credit impacts how much we pay for other money? So credit cards, how much we pay for insurance, your auto insurance and your homeowner's insurance, directly impacted by your credit score. It impacts how much it costs to get the lights turned on. And do you know that even right now, credit still determines whether or not you qualify for a number of jobs? Now, I'm not saying that's fair. Do you think that's fair, Javon?
Not at all.
I'm not saying it's fair. I'm saying I just know it's a part of the process. We didn't set it up, but now that we know the setup, we should do the things that we can do to make sure that our credit is as good as it can possibly be. Making sense? And by the way, if you didn't know, anybody out there in the survey, if you didn't know those things, don't worry, you're not alone. 43% of people surveyed didn't know that it impacted their car insurance or their ability to get a cell phone or the cost of their utilities, right? But all of those things are impacted. And so we're going to just do a little bit of what we call Credit 101. We're going to talk basics. Is that all right, Javon? We're going to answer the questions that nobody really told me the answer to until it was time that I needed it. Meaning, people started asking me, what's your credit like? And I was like, what's my credit? So credit's not a mystery. What is credit? Credit is history. It's the official record of the bills that you have paid. As a matter of fact, it's one of those things. It's like what I've been trying to explain this to my children who are now young adults, all of them, 21, 23, 29. And what I told them is your credit is like your reputation. Meaning all the banks and all the credit card companies, all the lenders around the world get together and they tell a group of people your business. They tell people how much you paid, whether you paid on time, whether you paid late. And Lord, if you happen to not pay, then they really talk about you. And the more current things are, the better your credit is, the worse off, the worse your score is. Now, second thing we talk about is what is a credit bureau, AKA a credit reporting agency. There are three major credit reporting agencies in the US. You got Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Now, here's something else I found out from other people that I talked to.
What's that?
Some people think that the government is actually who establishes your credit score. That's not true. Credit reporting agencies and bureaus, see, like the name makes it sound official, like classified, like Federal Bureau of Investigations. No, credit bureaus, credit reporting agencies, they are businesses, and their businesses is to spread rumors. Well, not rumors, they spread your business, they spread facts. So if your creditors are saying good things about you, the creditors will tell other creditors good things about you. If your creditors are talking trash about you, they will talk trash on behalf of your creditors about you.
Pretty much.
And so, but they consolidate all the information and they sell it at a fee to the vendors, and most people don't know what's on their credit report. So let's talk about the number one indicator, thing most people come to me saying, I need to get my credit score up. Now, your FICO credit score is actually a combination of factors that lenders use to make a spot decision about whether this person has good payment and financial habits or poor payment and financial habits. And the range for credit scores is 300 to 850. 300 to 850. Now, it is not a normal range, meaning if you think about the range of numbers between 300 and 850, more than half of the possible values are considered very bad. It's not until you get to a 650 where your credit's considered fair. So it's the top end of the range between 650 and 850. Fair, good, excellent is 800 or above. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
This is about that. Now, knowing the score is one thing, but then knowing based on score range what you can prepare to expect at least gives us a way to think about it. If you got 780 and above credit, you can frankly go to most places with the confidence that you can buy what you want at the best interest rate possible. 740 to 779 average, and as things go down, more and more challenges, and anywhere fives and below, you start to be unlikely to qualify for a loan. Am I making sense so far? Now, I point these things out so that people have an idea. They can look at this and find out. And if you don't know where to find your credit score, hang on. I'll share some resources with you to get you your credit score absolutely free and even updates as things go on. But am I making sense so far? Everybody tracking on what the scores get? Now, what's that score made of? Here was an aha moment for me. When I got serious about my credit, started knowing what the impacts were, started taking part in the education, 35% of your credit score is based on your payment history. And it is weighted toward the most recent history. So if you paid something 30 days, 60 days, 90 days late 10 years ago, it has a lower effect than if you paid 30, 60, or 90 days late last year. Am I making sense so far?
Yep.
You're welcome. At the same time, as we go through that process, we think through the next step. 30% is based on what you owe. Meaning, if you got credit cards and they got a high balance, so even if I only owed $1,000, but my credit card, if I owed $900 and my credit card limit was $1,000, that's 90% of what I could borrow utilized. That counts against me. Now, at the same time, if I owe, this is actually what's happening on my statement right now. I owe $945 on a card with a $60,000 limit. That's 1% utilization. It says it, here's how they act. This is how creditors actually act. They will loan you money if you look like you don't need it. Write that down in your notes. A bank is a place that'll lend you money if you don't look like you need it. So again, as you think through the process, think about how you've paid, how you've built, and then there's a smaller percentage that's based on the mix of credit that you have. So if you have a credit card, a mortgage, and some car loans, that's considered better than if you have all debt through credit cards. 10% is based on any time that you've opened or used new credit, because at least creditors are looking for people who plan to spend money, but also plan to borrow some money. And then the last 15% is based on the length of your credit history. Now, obviously, we can impact all of these things to rebuild our credit, right? Now, and let's talk about that, because that's the question that people ask most of the time. They say that, well, now that I know what credit is made of, what my credit score is based on, if I just do a good job of paying my bills and being a good person, will that rebuild my credit? Well, it eventually. That's the actual answer is eventually it'll work out, but it won't work out nearly as fast. There's all kind of sites that teach you all the letters and systems that you have to do to rebuild your credit personally. What I found is that for a lot of people, that consists of things that they don't like or have time to do. Like, think about this. If you were great at doing detailed follow-up and sending notes on time, would your score be down? Here's what we got to get good at is getting access to help. Because what I found, Javon, is we all graduated from school and entered the money game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Meaning there's a game out there being played at a professional level. A banker is a professional lender. Auto sales, if you go to a car dealership, they're not necessarily as professional about cars as they are about selling that money. So as we talk about that process, the person that says to me, well, my credit score isn't great, but I want to do everything to fix it myself. They sound kind of like a surgeon. Even if they had the skills, a surgeon would not operate on themselves. It's like that show, you remember the show Pros versus Joes?
Yeah.
Where it's like the best kid from your high school going against a professional athlete. That's what we look like in this world where there are experts and teams of experts that can help us through the process of improving the credit situation. Now, in my case, and one of the things I let people know, my partners in execution, as a financial educator, MWR Financial executes based on the education that we provide. And they provide a financial edge membership that goes through the rest of the things that people need when it comes to personal finance. Take this down in your notes. If you're taking notes, professionals have experts. They got experts. They got people that help them do things. I know how to lift weights, but I always do better and get better results when I work out with my trainer. And in the area of finance, so when it comes to our taxes, our credit, management of debt, and generating wealth, they produce what's called the Financial Edge membership. Now, Javon and I both own franchises in MWR Financial. We invested $228. It costs us $119 a month to have a staff of professionals work on all the pillars of our financial table. Meaning with Money Max, they help us with our tax strategy. Credit Max is going to work on our credit in an unbelievable way. I'll share some of the things that people are seeing happen in just a minute. Equity Max helps with rapid debt elimination because remember, credit is only a reflection of your financial picture. Do you feel me? It's just one that's based on how you performed in the past. It isn't even who you are today. It doesn't say anything about your cash flow or your positioning for wealth or your financial stability or any of those other aspects that we also work with. But here's what I found happened for me when experts started working on both the educational level and the improvement and rebuilding level. This is, up for most of my life, for most of my adult life, I'm transparent enough to say that my credit was in the 690 to 720 range. Once I started having the education and being strategic, I got aggressive about my debt elimination, got it up to 770. And then the experts went to work on the rest of this. And they said that from 690, their goal for me, they have goals for my credit, Javon, 833. Now, I didn't know that could happen, but it's not just me. There are people all around the country building their credit. Now, this young lady, I was hoping we could introduce you to her today. Her name is Shamika Rich. She and I have never met. I talked to her on the phone one time when one of her real estate agent, talked to her on the phone. She's trying to buy a house. Her credit score was down well below what she needed it to be. We talked on the phone, and in 30 days, her score went up 125 points. Cool. This was that conversation. I talked to her about the services, directed her to where she could find other people creating success, and sent her a website link. She texted me this picture less than 30 days later. Isn't that amazing? Now, here, good news. I didn't repair her credit. I just sent her a website, gave her access to the systems, and the experts did the work. And now Javon's testimony is even more often. Javon, let me let you tell it. I'll just pull up the picture. There's that suave debonair dude right there. Looking back at what his credit score used to be, but looking at what's happening now. Talk to us about how Credit Max helped you, Javon.
Man, the Credit Max is one of my favorite pillars of the Financial Edge membership because of what it have done for me at that time. Me coming from a place where I know how to restore my credit. So for my credit score to drop like how I did, and then for me to get with MWR at the right time and have the experts back me up and help me restore my credit, back in November of last year, all I did was do what the experts told me to do, and that was download my 3 credit reports and send it to them. So that's what I did, and then in return, I got an email saying, we're working on your credit immediately. So 2 weeks later, we fast forward to December 2019, my credit score increases 100 points. So now we go ahead and we fast forward to January of this year, where my credit score increased another 73 points. And then in March, it went up another 35 points. And then last month, it went up another 70 points. So that's like a total of 278 points within like a 5-6 month span that my credit score increased.
And that, I mean, y'all got to give it up for Javon. That's such an awesome testimony, but also a testimony to the power of experts. Because think about this, all that increase happened probably, if you ever remember, we were talking about how much busier you got in your job once we got started in business. When COVID and all these things started happening,
yep.
they were working you Hebrew style. So while he's working on building his business, the experts are working on credit. And it's not just him, it's lots of people. And then they take the next step. With Equity Max, is not the goal that you just get cheap money when you borrow it, but also that you get out of debt as fast as possible. So working hand in hand with that debt to income ratio and the debt pillar, helping people get out of debt, have their needs met, and a projection on when they will be a millionaire. Because that's the goal. If we're going to make wealth real for anybody, first thing that we got to do is stop paying more for things than they cost. And the number one way we can do that, let's get your credit in order. Now that we got your credit in order, let's get you out of debt. Now that we got you out of debt, let's make sure that we're paying the least that you can in taxes so that as your score grows, as things go, you continue that education, training, and support process. And it's not left to you and what you know. Because here's me and Javon both agree. Before we started working with Making Wealth Real Financial, We were doing the best we could with what we know.
True.
And the results, the scores, even though we're responsible for them, we're also responsible for ongoing, growing, and improving the entire process. So if we think about our goals, they are very straightforward and simple. In cash flow management, it's the very first pillar in our entire income shifting strategy. Last week, we talked about how to minimize your debts. This week, we talked about credit, how to improve your credit score. Next week, we're going to talk about the very last part of the bloody mess, that part that takes the highest portion of people's income. The number one expense in their home is their taxes. We're going to talk about how to become tax efficient, maximize the money that you bring home from your job, and we'll do it just in time for tax day in America for 2020. So before we jump off the line, I want to give a huge shout and thanks to Javon Rowland for not only his testimony, but for his leadership as he helps to educate people around the country, and we make wealth real for more people around us. Now, at the end of this conversation, there's only 3 categories of people. Third person says, thanks for the education. I'm going to do this all on my own. And, the blessing for me as an educator is that's my job, is just to teach and expose people to an opportunity to have experts work with them. Number 2 person says, I'm interested in that set of services. I do want my credit improved, and I have an interest in getting out of debt and making more money. If that person's you, just text a person that invited you. I want more information about the services. And by the way, if that's your level of interest, it's a lesser cost. It's only $79 to get expert access for the membership, the credit repair, debt elimination, etc. And for the number 1 category person that says, you mean they pay you to help people get their money right? If you want information on how to get paid for helping people overcome the financial difficulties they're in, shoot a message to the person that invited you. Let them know, I want to know more about the financial education system. They'll invite you to a private virtual event, and together we, not just me and Javon, but we can make wealth real, not just for us, but for the people around us. Hey, this is Richard Hardon, the Power Builder. Hey, you can build your credit 1 brick at a time, but if it were up to me, I'd get some experts to help with the process.
True that.